Hello, I'm Michelle, aka Imagination Reigns, and I just got laid off. Yeah, worst case scenario for me. But it did get me thinking about this conundrum that artists have on whether or not we should keep the 9 to 5 and do art on the side, or if we should just screw the job and go full time on art and follow the dream. And as someone who has just gotten laid off, I have a few opinions about that. So I'll put on a time lapse, let you know how I feel, and I may contradict myself by the end of this, so stay tuned. Stress and fear kill creativity. So before this, I was in a job that was full commission. And I learned at that time what it feels like to go days, weeks without making any money. And that kind of initiates a fight or flight fear in you. And it's very difficult, not impossible, but very difficult to be creative in that mindset because you're thinking at that point, what is going to pay my bills? And at that moment, it may not be the art you love. So you might start making things that are making money or at least popular and getting those likes on socials, but it's not actually what you love to do. And at the end of the day, when you're not doing what you love to do, it may not be your best work, anyways. So when you have that 9 to 5, that stable income that's coming in, you're able to be creative without that fear of what I'm doing has to make money. Like I've gone through so many different ideas while I had my 9 to 5. I, at one point, was making figure skating drawings and I wanted to have a business where I did figure skating portraits. And I took the little crystals that go on the dresses and actually put that on my art. You know, getting those crystals cost money. And I didn't know if that idea was even going to be viable, if people liked it, but I had the opportunity to try that because I wasn't really focused on making money yet. I was just experimenting. Building an art business, building an art style, you have to have the ability to make mistakes. You have to be able to have the ability to explore different things in order to find your artistic style. And having to focus on money may stall you from actually going and doing those things that might be a mistake. You also need funds as well. For instance, I just launched bookmarks, and I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't have the funds to buy those bookmarks. I started entering into gallery shows. Those also, they're not all free, and they require a initial admissions cost. All those things I most likely wouldn't be able to do. And art fairs are super expensive. I think I spent over $400 for my art setup. And unfortunately, I made that investment not knowing I was going to get laid off. But your business requires money. And so if you don't have money coming in, the amount of time that you have in order to build out in that business is going to be very short. And I think as far as art, it is an endurance race. It's not a sprint. And it takes a long time for it to build, and you don't want to run out of money before you get to the point where you have success. And I'm not saying that with a job, this isn't risky. Like, obviously, I know lots of people are living paycheck to paycheck. So it still is a risk. But when you have no money coming in, then it really seems like a risk. And I think that's where some point where people run out of money and they're like, okay, I have to quit this dream and go back to a 9 to 5 because it's not working, which I feel is what I did after I got out of college. You know, life hits you and you're like, oh, okay, I have to pay my bills, I have to pay rent. And I don't even know where to begin making art a full time business. So therefore, I'm not going to do that and I'm going to do something else. And, then also with having a job, it's covering health insurance, at least to an extent, retirement funds, and things like that. So, those are also things that you have to think about when you have a full time art business. So, It's a lot at one time. And so if you're able to have that job and to be able to slowly do all of those things, I think it's a lot more manageable. And then you're less likely to give up and say, oh, no, this isn't possible. And instead being able to do everything baby step by baby step. Now, just coming off of the back of having a full time job, I do know the argument of why people want to go full time. It is very difficult to work your 8 hours plus your commute and then having all the other things you have to do in the home, like cook dinner and clean and family, friends, if that's even an option at this point, and then also paint and run a business. It is very, very difficult. It is exhausting. It is less sleep if you choose to deprive yourself of sleep to work on your business. Um, Telling friends that you aren't able to go out because you have to spend time on the business. So it is very hard. I understand that. And I think that's where the idea is coming from, that if I get rid of my full time job, then I can put so much more time into the art and grow faster. And that's one of the frustrating things, is that your art business with a 9 to 5 is going to grow a lot slower than someone who has, 10 plus hour days to work on their business. So you kind of just have to choose your heart, as they say. Each one is hard. And are you going to work better with that financial backing? Or are you the kind of person like, yeah, I can run and go. I love the pressure. And if I have 12 plus hours a day, then I can do this. So you kind of have to choose that for yourself. With all that being said, I really like the plan of gradually shifting, if you want to go full time with art, the gradually shifting from the full time to the full time art business, from the full time job to the full time art business. And that way that you're able to validate that your art can make money slowly over time. And then that transition from the full time job to the art is not as difficult. And then you're able to manage those things that you have to learn, like building a shop, building a website, social media, marketing, ads, all of that you can do in little baby sets than just being thrown in there and saying, like, I have to figure all this out at once because I need to make this work. Um, and then also, you have the financial backing that you need in order to build the business. And I don't think there's anything, I mean, there's nothing wrong with any of these options, but I don't think there's anything wrong with getting a part-time job. So you have a part-time job that is giving you some income, and then you have your art business also bringing income, so that not all the pressure is on the art business, and you can always lean on that part-time job unless you get laid off. But I personally actually like that idea. It's just getting your art business to the point, figuring out how much money you need a month, how much is the part-time business bringing in, and then how much do you need your art business to bring in. I think you have to do a real deep dive into who you are and what your risk tolerance is. And for me personally, after working a commission job, I do not like that feeling of trying to figure out how I'm going to pay my bills and where that money is going to come from. I like stability. I like predictability. That is my personality. So, but if you're someone who thrives on that pressure, I have friends that are like that. They really thrive on the deadlines and the pressure. Like, then that might be for you, going all in and having all the time to do your art business. But I think you have to have a really deep, honest conversation with yourself and figure out what you're comfortable with. Now, here's where I contradict myself. So, I was put in the situation that I recommended not to be in. And when you're put in a high pressure situation, sometimes you're forced to do things that you wouldn't have done otherwise. And for me, I've done a couple of long form videos, but I'm not a talker and I'm pretty shy. So this is very uncomfortable for me. And I don't think I would be doing this if I hadn't got laid off. And I think for me, there's a little bit of pressure. I have this opportunity where I have all day to work on my art. and I don't want to lose the opportunity to do everything I can to give it a kickstart. And I'm still going to apply to jobs. I'm still looking for work, but when I have this time in order to work on my art business and do everything I can, I'm going to take it. So here we are. And I will let you know how that goes.